class. This is my first time teaching in this room since they rearranged it, so I've got to get reused to all the technology, because this room used to be set up this way, and they had 2 cameras and all sorts of other weird stuff, and I got to get reused to the way everything works. This is being recorded. If you have a problem with this, you should let me know. I will promise to edit as much of you out of it as humanly possible. You're going to see this camera view and hear me, ideally. That should be all of it, because I don't have a microphone set to pick you guys up at all. Hi, welcome to Discrete Math. I'm Dr. Sassmore. I'm the crazy person who does this because I like it. And you all are here mostly because you have to be. And I'm going to tell you right now that this is the math class that is the least mathiest math class you've ever taken, because this is the class that, instead of asking you how, asks you why. And that's gonna hurt. I apologize, but I do honestly believe this not only makes better mathematicians, it makes better programmers. So those of you that are going forth in computer science or cybersecurity, this is a large benefit. My office is across the street in Lynch, but my office hours are held over in the Math Enrichment Center in Reeves. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it's after this class. Tuesday, 1:30 to 3:30, Thursday, 2 to 3:30. Those are all accessible in person in the Enrichment Center and via a Google Meet, but you have to let me know if you're going to join me virtually, so shoot me an email and I'll make sure to turn that on and join it. And again, I'll have this, I can write to you, I'll write directly under this, and we'll work back and forth. We are going to cover about 8 chapters of this. Ken Rosen's Discrete Math and Applications, 8th edition. And I like Rosen's book for a lot of things. There are a number of places where I kind of go, maybe we should supplement this, and I will make sure that you get that information as I need it. But what we're going to cover and how, this is both a course that satisfies mathematics objectives, and here's how we're going to do that, a breakdown of how we address these objectives in which chapters. But the majority of this course is really me scaffolding the textbook to you, because a lot of this is things you need to chew over for a while. Things that don't, oh, of course, that's obvious. Very little of this course is intuitive or obvious to me. And so I want you to spend some time. And unfortunately, that means reading the textbook. This textbook was written by people who really know this stuff, which means that in some cases it's as clear as mud. My job is to sift the mud and make it clear. Policies for the course. If you're sick, stay home. As long as the recording is working, I'll make a YouTube channel of every video for the entire course. I think you get more out of it being here, but if you have to miss something, there should be a backup. If you think you even are questioning, is this a cold? Do I have COVID? Do I have RSV? Whatever it is, go up, get a test. They've got them up on 5th Admin. And if you're sick, stay home. We'll figure it out. But I do think you should be coming to class. I have correlative evidence that shows why I think class is worthwhile. I have a positive correlation coefficient between attendance and overall grade. Our value is about 0.6. Pretty good. Attendance does directly affect your exam grades. I have had one person in the 20 some odd years I've been at Seton Hill who came for 4 exams and nothing else. I had him 5 semesters in a row, and in order: B minus, C, C minus, F. Coming to class helps. Technology. A lot of what we are going to do is easily computable, is easily codable. I want you to use this. I know this edition better. If you have a different calculator, you're not going to piss me off, unless your calculator says CAS, Calculator or Computer Algebra System, like the TI-89 or some of the HP 30 series. If your calculator does more calculus than you do, then I'm not you doing it all. It's not helpful. So if questions, come talk to me. Most of what we do is going to be elementary algebraic calculations. We're not going to do crazy on the calculator. I save that for the calc classes. There are a lot of required homeworks. On our Canvas page, there is a PDF file. Shows you every section's homework, which problems are going to be graded, which ones I think you ought to do anyway. I'm only going to collect 5 or 6 or maybe as many as 8 problems per section. We finish a section, the homework is due 2 class periods later. If you go to your Canvas page and click on the calendar icon, you will see everything for this class. If you turn the calendar on, you can then import that calendar feed to your Google Calendar. And if I make a change, it'll automatically propagate through. But I hope not to. All the due dates are in for everything. Schedule. I ate the schedule. Schedule's underneath. That's right. So everything that we're going to do, so I'm going to finish chapter 1, section 1. I'm going to start it today, but I'm going to finish it Friday. And that means the homework for that shows up on the 29th. It's due here. And if you look at your calendar on Canvas, you'll see that due date pop up. If you look at the list of assignments, either in the assignment portal or on the side of the Canvas page, they'll show up about a week out. Why? Why am I making you do the homework? Well, 2 reasons, really. Because this is a course that is about why rather than how, I want you to show me how you think. What is your argument? What is your explanation? What is the rationale behind the answer you've come up with? Best way to do that is to write it out. Now, you're welcome to type your homework if you'd like, but it's going to be a lot of math, and that's kind of difficult to do in Word. I find it easier to do in other programs. If you're interested, please come talk to me. I'll happily show you some of the typesetting programs I use, but it's like writing raw HTML. There's a learning curve that's almost vertical. So it's easier for you to write stuff out by hand. The overarching result of that is twofold. I think what goes through your arm goes into your head better. I learn by writing. I don't know if that's true for all of you. A lot of people tell me I learn by listening, and I put headphones on them and tell them to listen to a lecture, and they don't remember, and that bugs me. But we figure it out. I want you to develop the best learning strategies for you, but I think practice makes perfect. And in this case, that means practice writing out the arguments. Because that, therefore, is a writing course and a course about logical thinking, I wrote a draft of an AI policy. Look, you don't even need to use ChatGPT in this course. Every damn problem in that entire textbook is available on Chat. I know that. The entire answer guide is out there. Those problems I make up. Those answers are not out there. So if you do all of your answering on this, and you show up for this, that's going to be a 2x4 to your grade and your head. I don't want that to happen. But really, at some point you're going to get stuck and you're going to go want to look for the answer. I know you can find it. But I think you shouldn't search for an answer online until you've worked on the problems, at least you get. And working could mean you stare at the problem, you think about it a while, you look back in the section, you read a couple of examples, and you kind of go, nope, still as clear as mud. Or you look at the examples and go, wait a minute, maybe that, how could I, and maybe that works. You talk to one or more of your classmates about it. People, you should work together. If you form a homework study group, this is a wonderful benefit. Again, we did a study. People who work in groups in my classes do better for the most part. Go talk to the class tutors. We're going to have a bunch of tutors on our announcements in Canvas. Already is the way to set up on Penji both appointments and drop-in hours for the tutors. You can go see whoever you want to see. And we have a lot of tutors for this course. I think we have 4 or 5. So there'll be plenty of opportunities. Or come talk to me in all of those office hours. Because I end up sitting over in the enrichment center twiddling my thumbs a lot. Come bug me. And maybe we can make it clearer. But really, This course is about struggling with thinking. I got a quote up here from Francis Sue, former president of the Math Association of America, wrote a book called Math for Human Flourishing. That's a perspective you didn't expect, right? Math is good for your life. Kenneth Burke said literature is equipment for living. Math is equipment for thinking. I want you to be better thinkers so you can be better programmers, better pen testers, better designers, better thinkers. And the purpose of this course really is that I consider almost all of this course to not require an AI sequence. There'll be a couple places where I'm like, hey, you should look this up. Here's a website. There's some really neat stuff happening here that might be interesting to you. But when it comes to doing homework, I would request that you do it yourself first. By the way, when I sat down to write this AI policy, I cheated. I asked ChatGPT for it. I want to write an AI policy for a proofwriting mathematics class at the undergraduate university level. I want to discourage AI use. They gave me 3 pages. I think I kept none of it. But at least it gave me a starting point to organize my own thoughts. That makes sense. But this was a 0-point assignment. And therefore, in terms of what I learned out of it, well, okay, I can see what is the purpose, what is acceptable. Oh, okay, let me write about that. Outlining is not a bad thing. Both of these are posted to our Canvas page. Homework is graded on a 5-point scale. Each problem is graded. The grade is turned into a percentage, added into your Canvas grades. Grading scale is up there. If you're going to be absent on a day, homework is due. Again, in that top module where the syllabus and the schedule and all those things can be found is a scanning homework document. I have an app on my phone, scans all the pages into one PDF, and then I can email that. I can email it directly from my phone. I don't even have to move it to my computer. I can airdrop it to somebody and say, hey, will you print this and turn this in for me? That works fine. If you're going to miss class on a day stuff is due, scan it, email it to me. I'll print it.
You want everything physically?
I want paper.
Okay.
Yeah, as much as there will be no places on Canvas to drop an assignment unless I happen to be sick, in which case we'll be doing all of this just like this from home. Ah, joy. I did that during COVID. I don't want to do it again because then I don't see any of you. I see this screen and here. It's not all as helpful. Although I do have a Discord channel for this course, and that gives you the opportunity to have both a voice and a place to confer with each other as well as me. Feel free to use it or form your own if you don't want to see something that I have eyes on. That's fine. I used that for voice inquiry when I was remote. The overall grading weight for homework is fairly small by comparison to the exams. The lowest homework will be dropped, so if you miss one, it's not the end of the world. But it says, you will be required to turn in your assignments on paper, right here. Neat, legible, stapled, or paper clipped together. If you own spiral notebooks, please buy a pair of scissors and trim the fringes off the edge. Because I'm going to stuff them in a folder, and what usually happens is I push the spiral fringes in and something rips. Please don't let that happen. There are 4 scheduled exams. Again, going back to that schedule, our first exam is February 21st. The second is March 28th. And it tells you exactly what they're going to cover. All students should take all exams. If you're going to miss an exam, you know in advance, I'm going to be absent on February 21st. I'll give you makeup. Ideally, you'll take it in advance of the class. If you are driving to campus and blow a tire on 30, given the state of 66, it might be more reasonable to say you blow a tire there because there are some cauldrons on 66. Call me. If you call this phone number and leave a message, it gets converted to a voicemail and sent to my phone, to my email. So I will know immediately, as soon as hey, voicemail from, and I'll figure out what to do then. If there's another reason you miss an exam, you're blowing me off, whatever it is, I don't want to give makeups for things like that. So I added a policy here. If you do not arrange or provide documentation for a makeup exam, you will not be able to take one. The grade for the next scheduled exam will substitute for the missed exam. Which means you could say, nope, I don't want to take exam 1. I'm going to double up exam 2. Exam 1 is 19% of your grade. Exam 2 is 19% of your grade. If you skip exam 1 and double exam 2, that one hour sitting in this classroom is 40% of your grade. I don't think I've felt that much pressure since I was at the bottom of the ocean. No, I don't want to do that. I don't advise it. So far, I've only had a couple of students to successfully engage in such a process where they take the next exam and do well, and thus it works. But I would really recommend against it. Here's a grading scale. That's a minimum. I have no idea what sort of curving I'm going to do, and I won't know until after the final exam. Bunch of notes and policies. Like I said earlier, I'm recording this. There will be a YouTube playlist for every recording. I'll put it up. There will be a link in our web links section on that front page, and you can watch this over and over and over and try and make sure I said, yeah, that is what he said. All right, let's make that work. If you have large equipment, athletic equipment, art equipment, musical instruments, please keep the aisles clear in case of an emergency and we got to get out of here. As you all saw this morning, we get those lovely texts going, shelter in place. Sometimes we get ones that say evacuate the building immediately. Our evacuation route is out that door, down those stairs, across the street. We get on the other side of the street from this building. I hope we never have to. But leave the aisles as clear as possible, please. You'll get starfish results, reports occasionally. I'm required to do them twice a year. If I have an issue or a question, or I want you to go to tutoring, or I want you to come see me, that's the easiest place for me to put a note like that. So you might get a starfish note, or I'm like, hey, you're doing an amazing job. Keep this up. That goes directly to your Seton Hill email. If you need to contact me for class, please use email as a first resort. It's easiest. I guarantee you a 24-hour turnaround. But I get up at dark 30. I was here this morning about 6:30. I'll answer emails early, but I'm usually asleep early as a result. So if you email me at 11 o'clock at night, you might not get anything back until the next morning. There's an email etiquette document on our Canvas page as well. Dr. Laurie drafted that a couple of years ago and I stole it. It looks really nice. Please make sure you tell me what class you're in. Some of you have been in more than one of my classes and you know where to file stuff. You've got the schedule, so you know what we've got due on any given day. There may be additional points, bonus questions, bonus homework questions. There are no bonus assignments. Don't come to me in late April, early May going, what can I do to raise my grade? I'm going to ask you if you own a time machine. Start now. During the lecture, some of you will get it faster than others. I have this wonderful habit of going over something until the person in the back of the room who's looking at me like, huh? Stops looking that way. If you've got it, please nod along. Try not to snore if you fall asleep. That's okay. But at some point, you're going to look at me like, what the hell did he just say? And I'll be talking to you about that idea. Make sure you have a valid email address in Canvas, in Griffin Gate. That should by default be your Seton Hill email, but you might have that set up to forward somewhere else. Your personal or professional email account may not be your Seton Hill email. I will use your Seton Hill email to distribute announcements, and I'll use the Canvas system to send most of those. But if you send me an email, countrybutterfly25@yahoo.com, I'll respond to it. I just then won't go, well, who the hell? What's the country? What is that email? No, I'll just use your Seton Hill email by default. If you have your cell phone with you, please set it to silent or vibrate. If it goes off in the middle of class, I'm going to answer it and ask if it's an emergency. If it is, I'm going to give you the phone and tell you to get out there and take it. If it's not, I'm going to hang up on them. 3 years ago, immediately after that sentence, someone's phone rang. And if you have a glowing lap, I'm going to worry about you. So if you need to text, try not to. I'm only asking for 50 minutes a day. Please do not wear earbuds or earphones during class unless you have hearing aids that are very much look like iPhone earbuds. That's fine, but I'm going to ask if I see them. Tobacco use is prohibited in the building within 25 feet of the building. That includes chew, dip, vaping, any other sort of nicotine delivery service. We just got new carpet in here in September. If you spill a cuspidor full of spit from a dip, it takes forever to get out of these damn carpets. We actually had to sand the floor when we changed the carpet because some of it was nasty. There is nicotine gum available in 513 admin if you really, really need a fix. The rest of this is primarily boilerplate legalese. I am a mandatory Title IX responder. If I observe harassment of any type, I am required to report it. If you disclose to me something that can be construed as harassment, I am required to report it. That's up to you. If you don't want to talk to me because of that, here are some numbers to people you can talk to. But please understand, that's what I'm required to do. I may come ask you if I observe something, hey, do you think this warrants a report? I may be misinterpreting things. Your call, but I am required to report these things. And therefore, I'm required to tell you about that. If you are entitled to legal accommodations, whatever they are, I don't need to know why. I just need to know what they are. You have to go through the Student Services Office up on Fifth Admin, through the Accommodate system, whatever the rationale is, they will tell me, here's a list of things you are required to give student A. I will then have a discussion with you. How are we going to do this? And we'll work it out. Please try and do that by the end of next week. If not, you don't have to worry about it. But even if you don't know whether or not you're going to use them, if you're entitled to them, please go through the system. Academic engagement. If you come into class and fall asleep, you're not doing a very good job of engaging with the course material. By the way, if you want to sleep, go back to your dorm room. Go ahead, go sleep in your car. I don't care. But sleeping in here is not going to be very helpful. For this class, that usually means answering questions, talking back to me, and stopping me when something doesn't make sense so that I can understand where you're coming from. To that end, if you are absent for a school activity, again, we have the recordings. You should be able to get everything. Get notes. In case of things like a concussion or another athletic excuse, I should have a note taker for this class. So if you think you take good notes, would like to volunteer to be a note taker for this class, come talk to me. It's not a requirement. Nobody has to do this. I am going to post everything that I have written under this camera to our Canvas page. But if you all want to be a note taker, please let me know. Academic honesty. Don't cheat. All right, what the hell does that mean? Well, as I said earlier, all of this stuff is available online. Please try not to use it. Interestingly enough, the most recent version of the homework solutions I saw on Chegg for several different sections within this book were for the wrong edition. They were for the 7th edition instead of the 8th edition, and nobody noticed. Oops. So I caught a number of people using Chegg because they turned in the wrong problems. Don't let this be you. But plagiarism, cheating on examinations, falsification of papers, non-sanctioned collaboration, misuse or illegal use of library material, computer material, other material, published or unpublished. All right. Sanctioned collaboration. You should work with each other on your homework. That is helpful. But if you know how to do problem 2, but don't know how to do problem 4, and you know how to do problem 4, but don't know how to do problem 2, and you two talk to each other, you each have to turn in your own separate assignments, so I see what you learned from each other as well. Tell me who you worked with. That's fine. Until you get to the exams, then you're on your own. Questions? Talk to me, people, because I'm going to hit the ground running. Yes, ma'am.
This goes back to the paper thing. Is it okay if I use this printed up and then give it to you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You are welcome to provide me with a printed copy in any way you desire, whether you are printing out from your iPad or printing out from a computer screen, that's up to you. But I got to tell you that a lot of what comes to me needs to be legible. Ideally, at whatever resolution you print it at. So when you write, if you end up printing that out, I'm not going to be able to read it because these eyes suck. So please make sure it's large enough when you print it. Even if you can zoom on a pad screen, I can't zoom on a piece of paper. Other questions? Okay. In order to move from questions about how to questions about why, we need to change the way we think. And one of the problems here is that any language, English in specific, is horribly loaded with connotation, with implications, with snark, with loaded words. And when I want to write or communicate an argument logically, mathematically, I need to be precise. And moving from linguistically correct sentences to logically correct sentences means I have to change the way I write and what I mean. And rather than talking about something as an argument that's true or false, I'm going to talk about arguments as valid or invalid. True and false is a decidability issue. So I want to start with the idea of a proposition. To mathematicians, this is the foundational grammatical object, like a noun or a verb or something like that. This is a thing, and a proposition can be true or false. It's a declarative sentence that is either true or false, but not both. Now, that already makes me kind of scratch my head. What do you mean a sentence could be both true and false at the same time? Well, let's start with some things that are propositions. Under the normal rules of arithmetic, is that statement either true or false? It's one of them, right? That one happens to be true. Yay. But I could just as easily write that sentence, which again is either true or false. Yes? That sentence is either a true sentence or a false sentence. What about this sentence? Is that sentence true or false? Nobody told me what X was. I have an X that I know will make it true. I have other X's I know will make it false. Oh, crap. That's not a proposition. One of my favorite not propositions. Now, here's what I mean by this course is going to hurt your brain. Is that sentence true or false? If the sentence that I have written down is a true sentence, then that means this sentence is false. You just said it was true. If the sentence I've written down is false, this sentence is false, is true. What the? No, this is not a proposition. It's a collection of words that don't make sense. So in a real sense, a practical sense, I want to limit the types of sentences I use to things that can be clearly always true or clearly always false, and those are what I'm going to call propositions. Then we're going to be in a position to look at how we treat those objects and what we do to them like we do numbers. I'm going to develop an algebra on propositions. And that is really what logic is. It's a method of dealing with propositions in the same way that we try and deal with numbers. So to that end, I'm going to create propositional variables. And propositional variables are just single letters that represent a proposition. That way, instead of writing out a sentence like Harrisburg is the capital of Pennsylvania, I could just say, we're going to call that the proposition H. And then we'll use the proposition H in some of our expressions later on. This is not new. Propositional logic and propositional variables are newer than the idea, but the propositional logic we're talking about goes back at least 2,300 years. We first saw this sort of discussion in Greek writings in Aristotle, Plato, and all of those Greek geeks. And there's some references to it, but it's really made formal in that time. There are references to it in Babylonian and Mesopotamian texts that are over 4,000 years old. But they're just not quite as formalized and systematic as we want them. So I have things that I want to do stuff to. I got to go back to grade school. I got numbers. I learned to count. I had a pile of numbers, and then I learned to do things with them. What are the things? What are the operations on propositions? All right. What can I do to a proposition? What sort of combining, mixing of propositions can I do? Operations. All right, in algebra, we've got addition, subtraction, multiply, divide, roots, all sorts of crazy functions that we learn in calculus. We've got lots of things we can do. I'm going to start small. An operation called negation. The symbol is a minus sign with a little tail. Corner of a box. Some textbooks use a tilde for negation. Some online references use this as well. So you'll see it in a couple of different places. Our textbook uses the negation mark, this corner. So I would write this, and I would read this, not P. I need a proposition. So I'm going to write down a proposition. Joshua is male. What's the negation of this? This should be a relatively straightforward answer, I hope.
Josh is not
Now, here's an interesting statement. The way we insert the not into our sentence matters. We put it in front of the descriptor, male, in front of the adjective. If I put the word not at the beginning of the sentence, that means something different, doesn't it? Not Joshua is male. Well, then who are we talking about? Uh-oh. So where we put it matters as to whether or not we construct a valid proposition. And this is why I hate English. Here's an interesting sentence for you. Right? She told him that she loved him. I want you to put the word only into that sentence. There are 8 different places you could put it. Before, in between, or at the end. Right? Every single place you put it means something different. Only she told him she loved him. I love by only one person. Or you could be demeaning about it. She only told him she loved him. All I did was move it over one spot, and I changed the connotations completely. Propositions remove us from this. And working in this fashion, in propositional logic, means I don't have to worry about the connotation of the sentence in English. And by the way, it isn't just English. This happens in all languages. Word positioning and word spots change meanings. This is why learning grammar, hey, go program. Syntactic programming is a pain in the ass. What language, where does this dot go? What's the right keystroke here? I'm in trouble. So what does the negation operator do to a truth value? J, proposition up there, J, happens to be true. I put the negation in front of it. What happens?
It will become false.
Aha! I flip the value of the truth of my proposition. And since every proposition is either true or false, the negation is also a proposition and is either true or false. So if I have some proposition P, I know that that proposition can have 2 different values. It is either true or false. And then I can say, well, what happens to this proposition when I do this operation? If I negate P, I reverse the truth values. What I've just written here, this is an example of a truth table. And it displays the relationship between the original proposition and the operated proposition. And for every operation we come up with, I'm going to come up with a truth table for it so that I can kind of figure out what this operation does. Does that make sense? What questions do you have? Okay, note to self, in spite of the fact that it is negative 12 outside in the morning, this room is hot. Okay. This operation is a unary operation. It operates on one proposition. Most of the propositions we use, the operations we use are binary operations, which means they're going to operate on two propositions. So let's start looking at binary operations. Means I'm going to need two propositional variables. And 99% of the time, I'm just going to use P and Q, but you can use any letters you want. I don't know whose fault it was, whose desire it was to start at P, but that's where almost all of the propositional variable texts start. If I have two propositional variables, how many possible arrangements of truth values can I make? Why 4? Because I want them to be different. So let's go through some of these. I could have both of my results be true. I could have one of them be true and one of them be false, but it could go in either order, or I could have both of them being false. This is almost always the default ordering I use for a truth table. The left column is less frequent change than the right column. So the rightmost column here flips back and forth every row. The left one doubles that. We'll see this again when we get more of them. So here's a binary operation. And it's also referred to as the conjunction of P and Q. All right, I want to use the word and. I would like it to mean the same sort of thing it means colloquially in English. So I have this new column on my truth table. P and Q. I need you to tell me how to fill in those 4 rows so that this quote makes sense. First row. If P is true, Q is true, what should I get in the third column? I would hope so. I should get a true. Let's keep going. What should I get in the next row? P is true, Q is false. Because then the and idea, both, right? It really should be both. Well, if that's true, then what should I get in the third row? And the fourth row? Oh, wait a second. Now I got a conflict here. I heard false, I heard true. Wait a minute. We're all in agreement so far on these. It's just this last one. It has snowed in the last 24 hours. Either a true or a false statement. It is below freezing outside. A true or false statement. Let us suppose both of these things were not as it is right now. If it had not snowed in the past 24 hours, and it was not below freezing outside, why should the sentence, it has snowed in the last 24 hours and it is below freezing outside, be true?
And not that they both have to be true.
Ah, that is a good point. But my goal here is to discuss truth value. And so I think if that's the case, I do want this last row to be false. I'll come up with a different operation that might make that bottom idea. But at the moment, I think I want that to be false. Does that make sense at the moment, Emily? I always remember that this is a pointed up wedge shaped symbol because it looks like the N in ant. So let's turn it over. Here's another operation. Downward point, we make it cleaner. We're going to read that as or. The disjunction. After today, you won't ever hear me use the words conjunction or disjunction to refer to these symbols again. I promise there's a reason, but it's just easier to say and than or. Let's make a truth table for this. Now, here's the fun part. I said that default ordering for the P's and Q's, that's literally the way I was taught to make it, and I've been doing it that way for about 30 years. Is it required? Hell no. But if I set this up in the same order every time, then I really only have to look at the last column to try and figure out the difference. Now again, here's a difference between English and geek speak. If you go to a restaurant and they say you can have a soup or a salad, what comes to your table? One or the other, but not both. It has snowed in the last 24 hours, or it is below freezing outside. Is that sentence true? It has snowed in the last 24 hours, yes? So it has snowed was already true. Do I care about the other part? No. So I'm going to say, in this case, not only should I get a true in the second and third rows where one of them is true, I should get a true in the top row where both of them are true. And then I'll only get a not true value, a false value, in the bottom. This is called an inclusive or. And that means there's another one called an exclusive or, but it is now 1:30. And so that will be where we start on our discussions on Friday. Thank you all. I will see you all then. If I did not get you onto the seating chart at the beginning of class, please stay where you are and let me come get you on the seating chart. Otherwise, have a wonderful day. Yes, that worked. And that worked.